Have you ever looked up from a frantic day and wondered whether you are truly living your life, or your life is dragging you along for the ride? And have you ever felt that despite having so many tools, apps, plans, and promises, the one thing you cannot quite seem to hold is a stable, trustworthy peace? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are bringing the Diamond Sutra down from the pedestal and into the sink, the meeting room, the late-night bedroom, and the dumb balcony. I want to speak to you, not as an expert staring at a concept, but as a friend who has tripped, spilled, snapped, and learned. Who guiding ideas will shape our time together. First, real practice does not mean running away from life. It means returning to life with both feet on the floor. Second, the peace you crave is not imported from outside objects. It grows when your heart sits in the right place while you do the simplest things. I promise is practical. By the end of this session you will carry 4 ordinary practices that look like nothing from a distance, but slowly, faithfully, tip your days from scattered to steady. Before you walk, I want to make one correction that may spare you years of frustration. The Diamond Sutra does not declare war on the body, the schedule, or the kitchen. It does not shame you for being human, or for wanting a warm bed, a paid bill, a kind word. It asks something far wiser. Take care of the vessel, while remembering not to live as the vessel. Cross the river on the boat. Protect the boat while you cross, and when you reach the other shore, do not strap the boat to your back and call it identity. With that in mind, let us step into the first practice. Take care of the body as if it were alone with love attached. The body is not a mistake in a spiritual pool, and it is the place where your clarity is housed, your patience is metabolized, and your ethics are enacted. People imagine the word emptiness and think it means neglect. It does not. Emptiness simply means nothing holds a fixed, permanent essence, so you are free to care without clinging. When you sleep on time, you are not chasing a patch, you are clearing the fog in which anger likes to grow. When you put your phone face down during a meal, you are not performing austerity, you are letting the senses meet the moment without a tug of war. When you drink water and feel it soothe your throat, you are reminding yourself that the simplest kindnesses are gateways back to sanity. Here is a nurse named Ari who used to say she was most exhausted not by the number of patients but by the way she ate and slept, or rather, the way she refused to. Lunch was scrolling and chewing. Dinner was revenge against the day, and sleep was a battlefield. The sound of a new message on her nervous system. She decided to run a 7-day experiment that looked absurdly small. Eat 1 meal a day without screens, go to bed before midnight 3 nights, and stand outside at sunrise for 90 seconds even if the sky was gray. That was it. On the 4th day she noticed something almost embarrassing to admit. Her temper had nowhere to land. The spikes were shorter, the drops were softer. Nothing mystical had happened. Her body finally had a chance to be a body, so her mind did not have to carry the whole world on fumes. She laughed at how unglamorous the solution was, and she kept it. Months later she told a friend, half joking, "I took sleep seriously and my philosophy improved." I'll walk into the second practice, the one that appears too simple to matter. Put your feet in the now as if the now were ground you had been hunting all on. You know the line, past mind cannot be grasped, future mind cannot be grasped, present mind cannot be grasped. People hear that and think the present is flimsy. The teaching means the present cannot be captured or owned, which is precisely why it must be lived. When you rinsable, and only rinsable, you are training your attention to stay. When you type a paragraph, and only type a paragraph, you are returning your scattered energy to a single flame that can warm the room. When you listen to a child, and only listen, you are building a house in which trust can lie down. Consider the accountant who always washed the dishes with a courtroom in his head. He replayed insults, rehearsed comebacks, and judged himself for the mistakes of 20 years ago. One evening, after another loop of silent arguments, he decided to run a strange drill. Count the exact number of plates, feel the exact temperature of the water, follow the breath from nose to belly and back 10 times while his hands moved. It felt childish at first, like therapy for a 6-year-old. But he noticed after 5 minutes that his breath had lengthened and his thoughts had lost their pitchforks. He began to run the same drill during a weekly team call in which nothing ever seemed to change. You wrote the 3 most important sentences on a sticky note and brought his attention back to them whenever he grifted. Weeks later, he did not celebrate as a guru. He simply said the meeting did not steal his life anymore. The third practice is sharper. Lower the appetite and raise the boundaries. The appetite here is not a moralistic accusation, but a practical map. The appetite to compare, to accumulate, to keep up with what a glowing rectangle tells you exists. Comparison is not only a thief of it is a thief of attention and money and sleep. All forms are illusory does not mean food and clothing do not exist. It means the labels you plaster onto them rarely match reality. A coat on a freezing day is warmth. The 7th coat that blunts your savings is an argument you will lose later with yourself. A phone that lets you call your mother is a cord of life. A phone that keeps you from hearing your mother's voice while you scroll next to her is a cord round the throat of your presence. Here is a quiet office worker named Dev who stumbled onto this practice accidentally. For a year, he could not stop purchasing small gadgets that promised to make him more productive. Each did something. Unsolved the egg. One Sunday, he laid every gadget on the kitchen table, like a museum of hunger. He asked, without fury, which of these items served the work he actually cared about, and which served only his dream of being a person other people would admire. You returned 4 of them for a refund and put the rest in a box in a closet for 30 days. You lived that month with a pen, a notebook, a laptop, and a timer. 5 weeks later, he had finished the chapter of a report that had haunted him for 9 months. He kept the pen. He donated the rest. He felt lighter. He said, not with smugness but with relief, Gwandlice, do more. The boundary piece is the twin of lowering appetite. Boundaries are not punish, and they are clarity with a door. When you say you will not check email after 9, you are not rejecting call. You are protecting the soul from which good work grows. When you tell a friend you cannot join every weekend outing, you are not becoming a hermit. You are saving energy for the person you will be with them in the moments you choose to share. When you decline a request and offer a realistic alternative, you are respecting time as a finite gift rather than an elastic fantasy. Boundaries are compassion scaffolding. Without them, your kindness collapses under resentment. Now the 4th practice, the one that looks like softness and is in fact steel. Widen the heart. Practically, this means do not let your mind escalate an inconvenience into an identity or a person into a villain. In the space between a stimulus and your response sits the entire theater of your freedom. You have heard that many times. Perhaps you have not yet loved it enough to use it every day. Winding the heart looks like a breath and a question. The breath is literal. Inhale so the ribs expand. Exhale so the shoulders drop. The question is short. What is the most humane way to see this scene while still telling the truth? There is a bus driver, old enough to have watched a city change 3 times, who keeps a small card taped to the dashboard. It reads, "Do not let a single moment become a whole person." When a passenger shouts at him for running on time and thereby ending a transfer window, he repeats the sentence. He still follows the rule. He does not romanticize rudeness, but he refuses to tattoo that rudeness onto the stranger's soul. On his break, he stands under a thin tree, looks at the sky, and returns to the wheel. He is not naive. He is disciplined. You will not let anger write profiles for him about the world. The diamond suit's echo here is clean. If you can see an appearance as an appearance, you can hold compassion without being hoodwinked by performance. Befriend these 4 into a single day to show how ordinary they are and how quietly they work together. You wake and do not reach with the phone first. You let the body stretch and add water to the mouth. You sit on the edge of the bed and feel your feet press into the carpet. 5 breaths, counting in and out. You eat a simple breakfast without a screen. You walk to your desk and decide the one task that will actually move the day forward. You grow a boundary around the first 90 minutes. Messages can wait. You work, you break, you move your body for 5 minutes. You drink water again. You call your mother in the evening and actually hear the rise and fall of our sentences. You say no to a last-minute request with a respectful offer to handle it at 10 tomorrow. Someone sends a sharp note. You breathe once, write a kind and concrete reply, and go for a short walk. You wash dishes and feel the plates in your hands. You go to bed before your edges fray. This is not a glow or a gimmick. It is a day with less leakage. After such a day, you might not feel triumphant, you feel intact. That is a better prize than triumph. You may protest that life is not this cooperative, and you are right, and any days will break your schedule. Children will wake with fevers. Clients will call with emergencies. Grief will knock and walk in without waiting to be invited. In those days, the practices do not disappear. They shrink to fit in your pocket. Instead of a long workout, you stretch your hands and neck for 60 seconds before the next task. Instead of a perfect boundary, you ask, what small promise can I keep today so I can trust myself tomorrow? Instead of judging yourself for eating late, you lower the light and eat slowly enough to feel one taste. Instead of resenting the person who spilled their panic on you, you take 3 breaths, do the next helpful action, and later, when the storm passes, you sit for 5 minutes in quiet because you know silence is not a luxury but maintenance. Sometimes the most powerful move is to rename. The name you give a scene changes your nervous system's willingness to meet it. When you call a minor inconvenience a disaster, your body floods with chemicals it must then spend hours clearing. When you call the same event a hiccup, your body spares the flood and you keep your wit. A long commute can be a prison or a monastery depending on the soundtrack and the posture of your attention. Tedious task can be a chore or a craft depending on whether you respect the sequence and let your hands learn speed through love instead of hurry through self-disgust. The Diamond Sutra would smile at this not because it cares about semantics but because it cares about suffering. False names create extra pain. Truer names reduce it. I want to give you a short, portable ritual that combines all 4 practices in under 3 minutes. If you meet a moment that threatens to tilt your day, find a chair or a wall to lean against. Place both feet evenly on the ground. Lift your ribs gently so the breath can move. Inhale to a slow 4. Exhale to a slow 6. 3 rounds. Whisper, barely audible, body first. Task, what is exactly here? Use a simple noun and measurable detail. There is a deadline, 2 hours, 3 paragraphs left, 2 calls to make. Then ask, what can wait? Aim one thing and let it wait. And ask, what is kind right now? It might be water. It might be a sentence to a colleague that saves them from guessing your state. It might be a brief walk to change the air in your lungs. And do those things in that order. If you actually do them, you will likely feel the single click of a gear sliding into place. That click is not metaphysical. It is your attention returning to its job. Let us wade into relationships, where these practices are tested most fiercely. You cannot control another person's mind, but you can choose the tone of your attention toward them. When a partner arrives all withdrawn, the appetite to interpret rises quickly. Lower the appetite by refusing to binge on explanation. Ask a simple question with a simple tone. Do you want to talk, or do you want quiet time first? When a friend misses a plan, mark a boundary. If I was looking forward to it, let's reschedule and also plan in a way that protects us both from last-minute stress. When your child throws a tantrum over a purple cup, widen the heart and describe reality softly. You wanted purple and we have green. I see the disappointment. We'll sit with you while you feel it, and then we will drink. When a colleague criticizes you in public, let the body lead by relaxing your jaw and lowering your shoulders before you speak. Then split the comment into grain and chaff. Respond to the grain in a sentence or 2, and let the chaff blow away without collecting it. Walk later if you must, and shake out your hands. The goal is not to win a scene, is to keep your heart available for the next scene. If you crave some evidence that this is not merely pleasant language, measure the days you practice by their smallest dividends. You fall asleep a little faster. You wake with less dread. You find it easier to begin the task you have been avoiding. You snap a beat slower in a conflict. You remember a friend's recent worry and check on them without making it about you. These are not minor to the nervous system. They are proof that the 4 practices are touching the muscle that holds your life together. Big wins count too, but they are seasonal fruit. The small dividends are daily bread. You may worry that if you make your life simpler, you will make it small. The opposite is true. Complexity is not greatness. A complicated schedule can be the mask of avoidance. Simplicity is not an aesthetic, it is a duty of care that lets you bring your full measures of humor, power, and tenderness to the few things you can truly hold. carefully tended body, a now you can standing, appetites you do not let bully you, and a heart that refuses to shrink other humans into cartoons will not make you boring. It will make you useful, and usefulness is the kindest kind of beauty. Here is a story about a city bus and a thunderstorm that I think about when I drop into old habits. The driver could not stop the rain. The windshield fogged. The wipers worked in frantic smears. The passengers grew irritated and lied. He could not pull over for lying. Instead, he did the 4 practices without naming them. He kept his body steady at the wheel and adjusted his breath. He returned his attention to the lane in front of him rather than to the panic in the rear. He lowered appetite by letting go of the need to be liked that minute, and he raised a boundary by following the schedule safely even when pressed by shots. He widened his heart by remembering the passengers were wet and late and human. He drove them home. Obadi applauded. He told the story later not to brag but to show that most days are storms we survive by driving the road in front of us and refusing the extra trouble of pretending we can stop the weather. If you want to start today without announcing to the world that you are changing everything, choose the easiest doorway. If you are chronically sleep deprived, do not start with a 2-hour spiritual practice. Start by going to bed 30 minutes earlier 3 nights this week. If you are ruled by your phone, do not throw it into a river. Start by parking it in another room for the first 15 minutes of the day. If your house is loud and your schedule is heavy, do not insist on an hour of meditation. Start by breathing 10 slow breaths while making coffee. If retail therapy has you by the ankle, do not declare a 5-month fast and then break it in Qigong. Start by pausing for 24 hours before buying and writing the purchase down with a reason. If your tone has gone sharp with the people you love, do not promise to become an angel. Start by catching yourself once a day before you answer and choosing one sentence that tells the truth without heat. Over time, the practices begin to braid into something sturdier than habit. It becomes temperament. You will not become robotic. You will simply waste less of yourself on imaginary battles, and you will have more of yourself available for what you actually value. The Diamond Sutra's line about not clinging to signs will stop being a quote on a wall and become the feeling in your body when you set down a resentment you have been polishing for years. The teaching about not dwelling will stop being a lofty aspiration and become the way you do an act of generosity and then forget your name in it. The line about the dreamlike nature of passing things will cease to be an excuse for apathy and become the reason you are gentle with a stranger in a hurry and careful with the words you send to a friend who trusts you. I want to leave you with a long reflection that is really a walk in slow motion through one ordinary evening. You step into the door after a day that did not go as planned. Your shoulders are high, your mind is busy making its list of everything that is wrong with you and with everyone you know. You notice the list and do not try to fight it. You tilt your hand as if to say hello to an old and slightly foolish neighbor. Body first, you tell yourself, and so you place the bag down and press your hands into the counter, feeling their weight. You drink water and let it sit there for breath. You walk to the window and look out for 10 heartbeats, which is just long enough to remember you live in a world that is not your head. You return to the sink and wash a dish, slowly enough to feel the temperature. The phone buzzes, and you do not reach for it. The boundary is not punitive. It is a way of telling time that you will not rent your attention out in 10-second pieces. You cook something humble or heat leftovers or make a sandwich. You sit while you eat and do not ask the meal to solve you. After you eat, you check messages and answer 2 of them with clear, short kindness. One message contains a tone that prickles you. You do not take the bait. You clarify the one fact that matters and refuse to address the part that was written by someone else's tiredness. You are not Supe, or you are choosing the street that still has lights. A friend texts a small sorrow. You send 2 sentences and a time tomorrow when you can listen. You walk around the room once and sit. You set a timer for 6 minutes and watch your breath. You notice everything you did not do, and then you notice that your shoulders have descended without asking your permission. You pick up a book for a few pages. You put it down. You call a parent or a sibling and ask one genuine question you know they love to answer. You speak without multitasking. You end the call and feel the relief of having fed a bond rather than just maintaining it. You lock the door and lower the lights. You brush your teeth and think about spending a little less tomorrow and giving a little more, not as a performance but as maintenance of the person you prefer to be. You put your phone to charge in another room. You climb into bed and do not count losses or rehearse speeches. You place a hand on your chest because sometimes the oldest comforts are the best technology. You breathe and fall asleep at a human pace. None of this has glitter. All of this is what your nervous system has begged for since you were small. The Diamond Sutra is not asking you to become a ghost or a statue. It is asking you to let your life be simple enough for love to fit inside it. If any sentence tonight met you where you actually live, carry it and test it tomorrow. Tell us in the comments what happens when you sleep a little earlier, when you let one meal be only a meal, when you spend less and notice more, when you ask a kinder question before you answer a harsh one. Share what breaks, what mends, and what surprised you. Your experiments will teach other people far more than my exhortations ever could. And if this conversation gave you a corner of your evening pack, please like, subscribe, and share it so this space can keep offering practical wisdom for real days. The channel only matters if you keep taking these words into your kitchen, your inbox, your commute, your pill. That is where a life is rebuilt. That is where steadiness grows. That is where ordinary practice becomes the most extraordinary thing you do. Thank you for watching this video.
Before you leave, here's something special. In Buddhism, we believe that every encounter carries a deeper meaning. Would you like to discover your true soul connection, the one written into your destiny? Take the Soulmate Test today and unveil the hidden truths of your journey. Click the link below and begin your path now. http://soulmate. You wisdom more, come, white.